You are now listening to the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. My name is Darryl Kinsey Jr. welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for today, July the 8th, 2021. Christopher Lehman is with me. We'll get to him in just a moment. We won't have Michael Ward for a little bit. His microphone died, which is unfortunate. We miss Michael. We'll have him back on here as soon as possible. It was a fun 4th of July of racing and everything from IndyCar, Formula One to unlimited hydroplanes, and of course NASCAR. We're going to talk about most of that today and also get into some news that we may have missed last week, as we had a really stacked show with Chris Hacker and of course me coming back from Gunnersville. But Chris, welcoming you into the program. How are you doing, man? How was your week?
It's been good. I returned to work after 2-month paternity leave, so just kind of getting back into the swing of things, really.
And if Chris is sounding more clearer to you guys, he's got his work laptop back, so he's able to talk using that, and he's got his headset on, which sounds really clear, by the way. It sounds awesome.
Thank you. It's just a cheap Turtle Beach one, so I guess I'll be using this in the future.
Yay! But let's go ahead and get into the program. Got a lot to get into tonight. We'll start with NASCAR because that's where a lot of the news comes from the last couple of weeks. Some of it good, some of it, well, we'll get into it. But before then, we'll start with, of course, the racing. In the Jockey Made in America 250, I'll give you a hint on who won. I'll give you 2 chances to guess who won. The second one doesn't count. Chase Elliott, yet again, wins on a road course. It was Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch rounding out the podium positions in 3 JGR Toyotas. Actually rounded out the top 5 with Denny Hamlin in 5th. It was also good days for Chase Briscoe. Ross Chastain picked up a top 10 in 7th. Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., Matt DiBenedetto, your top 10. I go through the top 10 as we can start there, Chris. A lot of names we haven't been used to seeing run up front this season. Up there in the top 10 at Road America.
Yeah, and you got to hand it to the CGR guys. Obviously some crazy news broke over the past week or so, and so they came out and they had a good showing for Chip, and especially seeing Ross and Kurt, they ran great all day. And I said it 2 weeks ago or a week ago or something. Ross Chastain is really coming into his own, and I really hope that Justin Marks and the Trackhouse team decide to keep him in that second car when Ganassi becomes Trackhouse.
Yeah, that is something they're going to have to deal with. And if you hadn't heard the news, Trackhouse Racing dropped a bomb last week and said they're buying CGR. So hopefully Ross Chastain gets to stay in that seat. I know Kurt brings the money with him with Monster Energy, so he might have a leg up there, although a lot of people think Kurt is going to go over to 2311. That has been the rumor that has been going around. We will see. It'll be weird having both Busch brothers in Toyotas, to be honest, so we'll see how that goes. But good run for them. Great run, though, for Chase Briscoe. His season has been an absolute disaster, much like the rest of Stewart-Haas Racing. So he has got to be feeling good with having a 6th place finish. I'll tell you something, when you've run as poorly as that team has this season, 6th place feels like a win.
Yeah, and that, like you were saying, that's team-wide too. Hendrick has more wins than Stewart-Haas has top 15s, I feel like, at this point. And so running top 6 is definitely what you would consider a victory, morale-wise anyway, for that team. But I didn't really see Briscoe very much, during the broadcast. He was kind of silently up there, and I was pleasantly surprised at the end when I saw him cross the line 6th.
For a team that's been that horrendously bad, though, doesn't it just feel good to have a quietly consistent day where they can just keep their heads down and just do the right things? Because it just felt like every week we had to go lower and lower down the standings to find SHR or find SHR cars.
Yeah, they were a team that I thought, up until maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks, that I thought they had a real chance of maybe getting one car in the playoffs, but more realistically, I didn't think they would get any. You've got teams like Joe Gibbs and Hendrick. Hendrick, all 4 cars are in. I think Gibbs, Denny doesn't have a win, but he's points in at this point anyway. But, in terms of 4-team cars or 4-car teams and 3-car teams, I thought SHR might have, been really looking foolish this year. But, I think if they can keep up this momentum, they're in good shape to put multiple cars into the playoffs.
And that would be great to see for them. On the other side, though, Kevin Harvick. Let's see where old Harvick finished. 27th on Sunday. Not too good. This season has been a struggle for Harvick, and of course we've talked about the Stewart-Haas Racing struggles ad nauseum here on this program, but does it feel like that they're going through a sort of, I can't really call it championship hangover, they didn't win, but like a non-championship hangover, because that team looked poised to win the championship last season and fell apart in the last round. People want to talk about, the format screwed Harvick. No, Harvick screwed Harvick. He had one good race, which was when Joey Logano pretty much used the air to beat him at Kansas. And if he had just run Logano off the track like half these drivers threatened, he would have been in the position to race for the championship. He still wouldn't have won it because he had a horrible Phoenix, but they had those 2 bad rounds at Texas where he was running well and then cut the tire down, and then we remember his trials and tribulations at Martinsville, and it just feels like that bad juju has carried through from last season all the way into this one.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that anybody can go out at any time. So if you're not putting together 3 solid races in every round of the playoffs, there's a realistic chance that you don't make it, or you have big deficits anyway. And so it's just one of those things that it could definitely be carrying over. But Harvick screwed Harvick. That's really the only thing you can say about it. But I hate saying, but we see on the Formula One side of things, the Haas team is sluggish as ever, and it's same with NASCAR. You got to wonder what's going on with Haas across the board, because if I'm Gene Haas right now, I'm wondering where my money is going, because it's not buying performance. It's not buying results on the track.
What also didn't help over there where they decided, hey, we're just not going to develop the car in 2021 and see how that goes, because they're basically looking towards 2022. We'll see how that works for them, Cotton. But going forward, I have no idea what Harvick can do at this point. That we don't have practice and qualifying for the majority of the races going forward, so it's not like they can really test in practice and figure out what's going on. I mean, the few practices they have, you kind of got to use for that specific race. On the other hand, the performance just keeps going lower and lower and lower, and I don't really know what they can do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they look like the dead horse, and everybody's just still beating them. And I don't think there really is anything they can do, other than something that I've suggested, is you take the Olympic break and you have to do some crew chief swapping, because obviously what you're doing right now is not working. Maybe Rodney Childers and Kevin Harvick, maybe they're run out. Maybe you'd be better off putting him with one of the younger guys, whether it be Chase Briscoe or Cole Custer. Maybe we saw it at Penske, and Penske started out the season really strong. They've kind of they've kind of faded to the back over the past month since Hendrick and Kyle Busch have basically started running the show. But Stuart Haas needs to do something. You can't just keep going status quo at this point. Whether they need to, change up crew chiefs or swap around car, get some different setups going. I don't know what's going on, but it's like they've fallen off a performance cliff.
And it's going to be hard to get it back with the new car coming next season, or maybe it's not coming, and we'll get into that in a moment. But let's get into the race proper. What did you think of NASCAR at Road America? We had Xfinity and the Cup Series there. We've seen Xfinity there for the past couple of years. The Cup race, I think, was pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good race. I think it was faster than I thought it would be, but to be honest, they need to figure out something with the caution lap. We had a 22-minute yellow flag period right there at the end of stage one. That's 22 minutes that we are under a yellow flag condition, and I think that's, at the end of the day, that's just unacceptable. They need to figure out how to change that, whether maybe they do one pace lap, but they stop right in front of the pit lane, lead lap cars go in, do the race off, and then the rear of the field goes through and they line up, and next time around they go green. I don't know, but I'm not going to sit through another 22-minute caution again. I can tell you that. Not unless it's red flagged.
I knew it was going to be bad when at the start of the race they did the intros, had the pace laps, went to commercial, came back. We were still on the pace lap. Please give us local yellows. And I even say for Road America, get rid of the stage caution. Or not count the laps, rather. Even that. I would say not count the laps. Because it's far too long at this place to go full course caution unless it's something that needs it. And if NASCAR is going to continue to do all these road courses, they've got to embrace the local yellow, or at least do like what the FIA does, put the little box in the car where the drivers can see it and turn it on and say virtual safety car or yellow flag or whatever you want to say, or even just put it in with the digital dash, and so you can put a pop-up up there that says yellow flag this section, so that people know that they need to slow down. That way they can't say they didn't see it. But what's going on right now cannot continue.
No, definitely not. And, it works. Localized cautions work in other series, and I don't think that there's a reason other than the fact that NASCAR fans probably wouldn't understand it. I think your average NASCAR fan, it's not traditional. It's not what we've always done. So, and they won't want to understand it. And you know how it's going to be, Darryl. It's just, that's not American. Or,
I know.
What have you. It's frustrating, though. But a couple more 22-minute cautions for 3 caution laps, maybe they are looking for localized yellows. I don't know. But
it shouldn't take that long to do a caution period, so hopefully they get that worked out. But we'll see what happens. I thought the racing was fun. It really taxed these cars, especially with the Cup cars. Saw some transmission issues. Tough break for Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse, despite their world-shattering news that came out. Had some people struggling with brakes as well as the races were coming to an end. It was one of the tracks where, and we don't see this a lot anymore, where the cars are really tested as much as the drivers.
Yeah, and I thought Suarez was doing a really good job until he had that issue. I was pretty optimistic. I think he was running like 7th when that happened. But he had been top 10 all day, really. I mean, I don't think he ever dropped below top 15. And it was looking like it was going to be a really solid finish. I don't think he had a winning car, and I don't think he's a winning road course racer when you've got Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Martin Truex, who I don't even remember where the heck he finished. But yeah, it looked really promising for Daniel and Trackhouse this week until that transmission issue.
Mm-hmm. Now I just got past a tweet that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but we may be seeing an angry Darryl rant coming in here later on today.
Oh boy!
But, it has something to do with the next gen testing. So angry Darryl watch is now in effect from now until 9 p.m. So let's continue. I guess we can continue into the NASCAR news and catch up on some of the stuff we missed. And I guess we can start with the Trackhouse story. We were waiting there last week to see what was going on. Maybe, expecting the announcement of Trackhouse bought a charter from somebody. Christopher, I wasn't expecting to hear that Trackhouse bought a team from somebody.
No, that was very shocking. So when they came out and you saw they introduced Chip, I was like, oh man, these guys really locked in like a technical alliance, like a really tight one, or maybe basically I thought Chip Ganassi was up there for any reason other than selling the team. He could have been a chair paperweight, and that would have been more expected for me than him selling the team. So, kudos to Justin Marks. And something that I think I suggested in the group text, and I actually saw it on Twitter for the first time today, is, does this open up the door for Junior Motorsports to buy RCR? Because I don't think there's a really clear succession plan for that team. And, who better than Junior to pick up that torch and carry it on?
You're not the first person that I've seen say that. Someone else was talking about that on Twitter. I don't know
Matthew
what
Burrows.
Richard's Yep. I don't know what Richard's plans are, but he's also not getting any younger. I would assume the team would go to one of the Dillons if Austin's interested in that. I have no idea what's going on with him and Ty. Like, that is a weird relationship that deserves more conversation, especially since, the 43 is an RCR aligned car, yet it's Eric Jones driving it, not Ty Dillon, which is weird.
Yeah, especially because Eric Jones didn't bring any money to the car.
No.
So if I think it's very strange. I'll be honest when I say that I think they are two different tier driver, Eric Jones and Ty Dillon. But we, save for a couple instances, we haven't really seen anything spectacular out of the 43 this season. I think, overall, Bubba did a better job of bringing not only TV time, because realistically that's what's important these days, but I think Bubba was getting better finishes, running better, and maybe it's just Eric Jones used to that Joe Gibbs equipment being in the best stuff, and he's just got to kind of come into his own with that subpar equipment. But I know there's a lot of haters out there that like to subtweet Denny Hamlin every time he tweets and say like, oh, find a real driver for your car. But, I think they did right with Bubba, and I think that, he's a better driver than Eric Jones in subpar equipment, at least.
Yeah. And it's going to take time for that 2311 team to come together. It's starting to come together. Unfortunately, they just had a horrible weekend at Road America. They didn't get to put a representative qualifying lap down because the transmission broke in qualifying, and they had to come from the back, and in a road course, trying to come from the back to the top 10 to top 15 where they're used to finishing, not going to happen. So, unfortunately, not a good run for Bubba Wallace. They end up 21st. He's in 21st in points. Eric Jones was supposedly a lot better than him, 26th. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, we got that news. We also got news that Atlanta is finally going to repave. And that made a lot of people angry. Folks, Atlanta, and I tweeted this, and I'm going to try to say that tweet verbatim. That surface was dead. Not has character, not wearing, dead. It was past time for a repave. You couldn't patch that anymore. Okay, Route 50 out here in front of my house has a better pavement job. No, do one better. They're redoing 214 out here. And they've stripped up the pavement that was on it, so you got that weird groove section that's under it. That has better grip than what Atlanta has right now. I'd pay to see a NASCAR race on that instead of the pavement that Atlanta Motor Speedway is. This was coming. And now they're reconfiguring it to make the banking higher, and that's got everybody's pants in a bunch because of a 30-second iRacing clip where the cars are bunched together. Y'all, it's iRacing. Not exactly accurate no matter what they try to tell us. Like, can we please calm down with this stuff? Please?
Yeah, I saw the first tweet I saw about it was a rant. I didn't even see like an official like Jeff Gluck or Bob Pockris post it. I saw someone on Twitter freaking out saying it was going to be the worst decision that Atlanta Motor Speedway ever made.
Yep.
And I thought that was a bold statement for multiple reasons. But yeah, I really don't understand why this is so controversial. You know, you're getting a little more banking, which you know, you can carry more speed, and they're narrowing it down, which I understand from the racer's point of view, that going from 55 feet to 40, I think it's 40 or 42 or something like that. Like, I understand that. You're effectively taking a groove, maybe a groove and a half out, but at the end of the day, on these mile and a half, they don't stay bunched up for more than 2 to 3 laps after the restart. So it's going to make restarts a little more stressful for those guys, but I don't understand why there's so much hate over this move.
Well, part of it is the fandom. We know how NASCAR Twitter is. Sad to say. And we got a bunch of people in the chat tonight. Repping the NorCal Sports is there. Taryn is in the chat. Adam, thank you all so much for joining in with us. We've been going on about NASCAR here. We're going to get into some other racing series in just a bit, but I'm interested to see what Atlanta's going to do with the next-gen car, if we see the next-gen car, which I'm going to get into in a moment. But I will say, Austin Dillon... Well, not really Austin. Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin's comments this week were interesting. They seem to be annoyed that more changes are being made to tracks and everything without their input, and I really think they need to start asking the drivers, hey, what do we need to do to give you a better race, or racing surface, so that you guys can put on a better race? Because at the end of the day, the drivers are going to know a lot more about how these cars can produce good racing than the fans will.
I agree with that to a point. I think also at the same time, they are consulting engineers. They're talking to Goodyear, the tire specialists. You know, I don't think that they just said, hey, this sounds like a great idea, let's do it. I mean, they have probably consulted 1,000 people on what they think about this. And while they didn't outright ask the drivers, I'm sure that they talked to knowledgeable people, and that, again, this is just the fans overblowing it. This is the drivers just venting publicly. And at the end of the day, when we get there, they're not going to be talking crap about the race. They're not going to be talking negative about the surface. I mean, yeah, new paved courses don't put on the greatest races, but at the end of the day, this isn't just someone who's never been around racing making a decision. This is an informed decision that was not made lightly. So people just got to cut the crap.
Yeah, we'll see how things go once we actually get there to race. So we'll have to figure it out when we get there. But now we get into the angry rant portion, and this one's going to be needed because the situation we're talking about is pretty serious. If you've seen Twitter today, there has been some comments that the new car has had issues. The next gen car may or may not have had issues with testing as far as crashes. There's also been more on this. Shane Himmel's mom came out on Twitter, or originally it came out on Facebook, but ended up on Twitter, saying that the crash test dummies they used in Talladega were killed in some of the crash tests. We're supposed to race this car next season. 2001 was not that long ago. Dale Earnhardt Sr. dying in the last lap of the Daytona 500 was not too long ago. And that's without the restrictor plate racing, or whatever the heck you want to call it now, racing we have right now. Supposedly, and this is from Broken Racing Wookie, who's also works at one of the NASCAR teams. I think he's one of the crew chiefs. I can't remember his actual name, so I'm sorry about that. But remember, one of the Xfinity crew chiefs got suspended, and his name was Suspended Racing Wookie. That's too far out from where I'm trying to go. My point is, the tweet that he put out is, there are legitimate concerns over design of the new car and certain parts of testing. Allegedly, and this is from someone that's in the industry, sanctioning bodies blowing people off. Are you sure you want to do that? Because we know how they race with restrictor plates now, or super speedways, whatever you want to call it. You will kill somebody this time. We've been playing with fire at these racetracks since 2015. Do you really want to go over that line at Daytona and Talladega this time and kill somebody? Because if Chase Elliott or Austin Dillon or Denny Hamlin or Bubba Wallace, or God forbid anybody, gets killed because of this car, and NASCAR could have stopped it, what do you think is going to happen to the sport? 2001 was in a much different place for this sport. They were booming. We are not booming right now. We are in a downtime. And you want to take a risk that you're not going to kill somebody in a downtime? You think the sport's going to stay around if you kill somebody because you're not taking the time to get this car right? Not to mention, you almost put Austin Dillon in the fence. You almost killed Ryan Newman a couple of 500s ago. We almost put Carl Edwards in the fence all the way back in 2009. NASCAR is not taking the racing at Daytona Talladega as serious as they've needed to for a while now, because they're chasing that wreck highlight and that close finish highlight, and I need it to stop. And at this point, if the leadership isn't going to do it, they need to flush out the leadership and get new people. I love the Steves, God bless them, but if y'all aren't going to take this serious, go find something else to do. Put different people that are actually going to take this seriously in charge. Because if you think this is angry, if we have to come on the extra mile, when is the 2022 Daytona 500 actually? I'm actually going to look this up. It's February 20th. So the next, and I'm doing this right now. We got to go to break, but I got to get this off my chest. The next show that we would do in February 2022 would be Thursday the 24th. If I have to come on here Thursday, February 24th, because we killed somebody at Daytona because of an unsafe race car, y'all think this is angry? Y'all haven't seen anything if I got to come on here talking about somebody died and NASCAR could have stopped it. Get this car right, even if you have to push it back to 2023 or 2024. Because if you kill somebody, that's going to be it.
The question that I have regarding all this is, so you decide on the body style, you figure out what you want to do with it. You take it to the track, you say, yep, it races right, it looks good. Okay, now let's just drive it straight into a wall. Right after you decided that the car looked good, handled good, it was what you liked, before you wasted dozens of drivers' time, send it right into a wall at 200 miles an hour. Like, this safety stuff should have been done long before tire testing.
Yep.
Long before.
Yep. We'll see what happens, and we're going to keep right on rolling, honestly. We'll get to the sponsoree in a moment, but we've got the momentum. We're going to keep on rolling. We're going to get to Formula One and everything here presently, but folks, I don't like doing these, but sometimes I got to let the passion out. I love this sport. I don't know if I could continue covering it if we killed somebody due to negligence. I really don't. Like, we know it happens, but if we could prevent it and it happens, I don't know if I can watch the sport anymore. And that's real talk on that. Hopefully we won't have to cross that bridge. And I'm praying we won't have to cross that bridge. So let's go ahead and get into Formula One. And then we're going to get into H1 Unlimited, who had the Gold Cup this past Sunday. We had 2 races in Austria, 2 Red Bull wins. Not just 2 Red Bull wins, 2 convincing Max Verstappen wins, Christopher. I think we can start etching Red Bull's name on the constructor's title and Max Verstappen's name on the driver's title. Because supposedly Mercedes updated that car and they still got trashed.
Yeah, they got thrashed more than they did the week before they upgraded. Yeah. And it's because Red Bull is definitely bringing multiple new parts to the track every week. And at this point, I think Red Bull could leave the car as it is, and Mercedes isn't going to touch it if they add something new by every week through the end of the season. I don't think Mercedes would catch up to them. And, hats off to Red Bull. When everybody else is saying we're worried about 2022, they said, well, we're coming for 2021, and we're going to make it not even close. And something that I saw on Twitter that was really funny was a guy with Bottas as his profile picture tweeted on the Formula One account, like, this is getting boring, Red Bull winning every race. I'm not going to watch anymore. And somebody commented on him. They were like, please tell me this is a joke. And he goes, no, why would I be joking? And they were like, your profile picture is Mercedes. Yep. Please tell me this is a joke. And it's, it's one of those things. I think Verstappen's the next superstar. He's definitely the next generation. And Lando actually had a lot of speed this past week too. So hats off to Lando. Qualified P2. It was a good showing by him. And I'm sure if Michael was here, he'd be in his glory. But it's over for Mercedes at this point. They're going to be trying to fend off Ferrari for second in the standings as far as I'm concerned.
And I'll check the standings here in a minute, but as we go into the last couple laps or the second half of this season, it's unfortunate that it looks like it's going to be a runaway, because we all went at the beginning of this year. It looked like it was going to be Hamilton and Verstappen trading blows all the way to Abu Dhabi, and unfortunately, we're not going to get that. because I think Verstappen's about to start up the Austrian steamroller for the rest of this season. I'm not sure if Mercedes wins another race this year. And I'm the resident Hamilton fan. I don't see a track where they're going to get a win. Please point it out to me, because I don't know where.
No, and I think that a big part of that, and I've been saying this for weeks, is I think that team is fractured. And, this past weekend, for a couple laps, they told Bottas, do not pass him. Do not pass Lewis. You need to hold off. I think, was it Lando that was coming up behind him?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, but somebody was coming fast, and they said, no, you need to defend. You need to hold him up and defend Lewis. And after, a couple laps, they realized, okay, we will lose both positions if we don't just let him by. But it just goes to show how, Bottas is so clearly, being, and pardon my French, but he is shit on every week. And even when you know your role as number 2 driver, there is only so much of that you can take. That blatant, you are not important. And I think it's just to the point where that team is from a morale point, just completely fractured. And until they do something about that, they will not win.
And I think it goes deeper than that. I think Azerbaijan, when Lewis beefed it, when he had that race won, by the way. If he doesn't blow turn 1, Lewis Hamilton wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And those 25 points are looming larger and larger and larger each time Verstappen wins. But I think this team, they got fractured, or they were broken at Azerbaijan. It fractured completely the next week at France when they blew the strategy. When both drivers said it's a two-stop strategy, and the guys on the wall just don't listen. And they were dismayed when they got beat. Well, your drivers driving the car are telling you, we got to make another stop for tires. We got to make another stop for tires. It's going to be a 2-stop race. And you don't do it. Which makes no sense, because you were in the perfect place to do it. It was your breadbasket to do it. You've just done this at Spain. Undercut Red Bull, take the second set of medium tires, force them to have to stay out on the old crappy hard tires and beat them. I just... Hubris is a you-know-what. That's all. That's what I can say. And as the Mercedes fan, I knew it was going to end. The domination could not stand. I didn't think it was going to end like this, where the team just gives away the championship. At least thought it was going to be a fight, but they've blown it. They've absolutely blown it.
I'm going to make an analogy that Mercedes is the Hindenburg. They were the awe of the world, and now they're just going down in a colossal ball of flames.
Basically. And it's, for some people, it's happy to see. For others, it's pretty sad to see.
And hey, it's German, so it doubly checks out.
Yep. But we'll see what happens in 2022.
Yeah, I think this season's over at this point, and anyone that tells you otherwise is just wishing or wishful thinking. Sorry.
Yeah, whoever. I do think this season is over, which for us, that means we don't have to go all the way into December to do this show, because actually, I think I even said that for the beginning of the season, we're not going to be going into December to do this show, because I don't care how long they extend this Formula One season. I am not going until December 12th on this show, unless it is 4 cars going at it for the championship. So they're going to get that worked out.
I think the championship will be decided long before the last handful of races.
And that's sad, because it's been too long since 2010, and the last time we had a proper to the last lap battle. And yeah, we had Rosberg and Hamilton go down to the wire, but that was 2 teammate cars, and unless Rosberg's car blew up, wasn't going to matter. So, you know, it's... Formula One can be frustrating sometimes. I love it, and sometimes sport can be frustrating. And it's especially how they negotiate penalties. And I've said this analogy several times now. Formula One has got to stop being officiated like a highway. And we saw that rear its ugly head in the worst way in the early stages of last week's race in Austria. Or this week, I guess you can say last week's now in Austria. Lando Norris forced Sergio Perez to go around the outside. Perez. Forced Perez to go around the outside. Perez lost it because he was on the dirty side of the track and went off. Norris got a 5-second penalty for that. If that is a 5-second penalty, why does anyone try to overtake in Formula One? Like, what are we doing right now? Is it a race or is it the M6? Pick one and stick with it. Because it's getting out of control.
Not to butt in on your rant, but Perez ended up having 2 penalties called on him on the same corner for doing the exact same thing. And I forget who he did it to. But then after the race, you've got Horner coming in saying, we need to worry about people flopping like in the NBA. We need to stop handing out so many penalties. And while I agree, he was also defending his driver. And Perez did, at least one time, you could tell he intentionally ran whoever it was off the track. The second time was maybe... You know, you could say, given the benefit of the doubt, but it was just funny that Horner is in the media now saying, like, you're going to have people doing this on purpose as a strategy move if you keep doing it, which I agree with to a point, but to another point I disagree with. Did you see that?
I did not, no. But my whole problem with it, I mean, even if Perez did the same thing, it's what drivers do when they dive in the inside. They try to take the line away, force you to go wider. Like, that's a standard overtaking procedure, as we've seen over in Europe, apparently. But if they can't even do that anymore, how are you supposed to overtake? And what's to stop the guy on the outside from just driving off the track and drawing the penalty, as Horner said, a la the NBA? Like, it's getting ridiculous. It just goes back to my point to where they've got to loosen up the F1 rule book just a little bit on some stuff.
Yeah, and I think the analogy that Horner made was really good because we do see a lot of flopping in the NBA for the most ridiculous touches. And, I think the strategy, someone will try to figure out how to use this type of penalty against other teams. They're going to figure out a way to weaponize it and use it. And I think there is an agree. I mean, somebody took the Oprah, you get money. And it was basically pushing out the investigations and
I've seen it. I know what you're talking about. I've seen it.
And then Haas, the only thing good they did a whole week was that meme with Leo with the money.
Yeah,
throwing the money, but it was all the penalty notifications.
Yes.
It was just ridiculous.
It's got to change. Hopefully it will. Gonna get to how the IndyCar race went here. Joseph Newgarden dominated, led 73 of 80 laps. Mid-Ohio is a great track to test the drivers. Too narrow to really make any real good racing that people would want to see, unfortunately, but it's still a pretty good racetrack, honestly. Ericsson, though, was closing in. If he had another lap, I think he would have been able to challenge Newgarden. But Penske Racing finally gets off the schneid in IndyCar. I thought they were going to go over for the season, the way it was going, but they were able to work it out. And we are still, I think we've only had one repeat winner this season, and that is Alex Palou. No, Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward are the only two repeat winners. So still an extremely exciting IndyCar Series championship for 2021. They're on the summer break. They'll come back August 8th for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix in Nashville, which will bring us back to two straight road and street courses, as they'll go there, and then the Big Machine Spiked Coolers Grand Prix at Indianapolis, where we go for a third time to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to race on the road course. So, of course, I said we were going to talk about H1 Unlimited, and we're going to get into that presently. The H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing Series had their Super Bowl of boat racing, the APBA Gold Cup, at the Madison Regatta this past Saturday and Sunday. Was supposed to be a 3-day event, ended up a 1.5 day event, as rain conditions in Madison the week prior overswelled the Ohio River. And Chris, I don't think I've ever heard of a race being stopped because an Amazon box floated onto the raceway. But that was the type of issues they were having on the Ohio River on Friday and Saturday, with Amazon boxes and tree branches and logs floating down the river through the race course. Also, the current was strong enough that it was moving buoys out of the way. The problem, obviously, with that is these boats go 200 miles per hour at their top speed. Usually they can run about 150 plus on an average lap. Bad things tend to happen when you hit an Amazon box going 150 on a course that is already as tough as Madison is, with turn 1 being extremely tight and extremely treacherous on that course.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a unique reason for that race to be put on hold is debris in the river. We've seen many debris cautions, but I don't think there's ever been any for an Amazon box, so that's a new one. It's just the boats. You're doing 150 miles an hour. The slightest thing is gonna throw the balance on that thing, and I don't really know a ton about those boats other than the fact that they look cool and they're scary fast, and
they do look awesome.
Yeah, and they're obviously very durable. But I mean, you can just let common sense take over, and you can get the idea about what the conditions will do to the race, and for safety. It looks like somebody cares about safety. That was a dig.
Yeah, thankfully.
But I mean, you shorten the day down. You take a couple days off the event. That's what you got to do to make it safe, and fans understand that, the racers understand that, and at the end of the day, no harm, no foul by doing something like that.
Yep, and we finally got into the racing on Sunday. We had all the heats on Sunday. Usually they'll try to run heats on Saturday and Sunday. Usually try to at least get heats 1A and 1B out of the way on Saturday, and then get the rest of the heats in on Sunday. But they had to force everything into a condensed schedule on Sunday, which actually wasn't too bad, to be honest, as far as the fan. Now, for the teams, that's a completely different story. But once we got into racing, Jimmy Shane in the U1 Goodman Real Estate presents Miss Home Street absolutely dominated in a boat that was built in 2007, has had some modifications, obviously, to run now. They're running that boat this season as a season-long test session just to see what they need to do with that boat for next year to make that boat up to snuff for the original Miss Home Street, which is currently sitting in dock. They didn't want to bring the new boat, as they'll call it. It was built in 2018. Didn't want to bring that hull out this season, so they brought the old hull out to see what needs to be changed. That boat is still pretty fast. That boat's won several Gold Cups before and won another one as Jimmy Shane wins all 3 qualifying heats and then wins the final to take home the win the Madison Regatta. But we saw some carnage on Sunday. J. Michael Kelly, who did not have a good race at all by his standards, had a third, a second, and a third in the season, or in the 3 heats. Heat 3A, though, was the scariest. He was actually leading that heat where the boat did a thing where it dug in to the water coming through turn number 1. Boat ended up spinning around violently. J. Michael Kelly complained of some pain in his rib cage area due to just how violent the spin was. He's doing a lot better now, though. That boat did not continue into the final due to damage sustained in that spin. The U11 J&Ds, driven by Jamie Nielsen, did not start Heat 2A or Heat 3A due to damage as well. Or no, Heat 3B, sorry. Due to damage as well suffered going through the rough Ohio water. And that boat ended up coming out from... That boat did end up running in the final, ended up finishing in 4th. The most dramatic incident of the day, though, happened to Andrew Tate in the U12 Graham Trucking. Tate, Christopher, lost the rear wing of the boat going in the early stages of the 5-lap final. Not optimal for downforce, and it showed in the lap time, but Tate was able to bring that boat home. But it just shows the Ohio River in Madison, Indiana, takes no prisoners when these boats get there. And it was wild to see just all the carnage and bent carbon fiber that was handed out by the end of this thing.
Yeah, and I think that team wants to check your pockets because who knows if you got the missing screw. Because that's the boat you got in last week, right?
Yeah, that's actually the boat I got to sit in last week.
Yeah, Daryl. So what'd you do? You sabotage it? Yeah, that's what they all say.
Had nothing to do with what happened to that boat.
That is what they all say, Daryl. Tell it to the judge.
Hey, I like Andrew. I wouldn't sabotage him.
Yeah, you got to sabotage the competition, not him.
Right.
But
go on.
Yeah, I mean those boats are they have to withstand a lot of pressure, a lot of forces, and they got to be pretty dang indestructible. But stuff like that happens. It happens. The Titanic was unsinkable too. So terrible analogy, I suppose, but yeah, unfortunate things happen. But I don't. They're not doing too bad in the standings, are they, for the season?
Well, I can let you know about that presently, and they're actually not doing too bad. We'll go to the driver standings and the boat standings. In the driver points after two races this season, you can find these on the H1 Unlimited Twitter. Andrew Tate currently leads the way in the U12 Graham Trucking with 2,425 points. J. Michael Kelly is second on 2,330. Corey Peabody, 2,075. Jimmy Shane only ran one heat in Gunnersville, so that's why he's fourth at 1,900 points. Dave Vilwalk, they had a rough time at Gunnersville, had a much better race in Madison for the best to ever do it. He's currently fifth in with 1,322 points. Jamie Nielsen, the U11 J&Ds on 1,294. They missed a couple heats there in Madison. And Jeff Bernard rounds out the grid on 1,029 points. Dustin Eccles, who drives the U440, yet to score as the boat broke at Gunnersville, and how things work with how their schedule works. They weren't able to repair the boat in time for the race at Madison. Hopefully Dustin will be able to get behind the wheel of the small boat, as they like to call it, for Tri-Cities in just 1 week's time. In the national high point standings for the teams, and this is important, whoever wins this championship wins the national high points championship and gets to keep the U1 number. And right now, Goodman Real Estate presents Miss Home Street has that championship, 2,929 points to 2425 on Graham Trucking, with Miss Tri-Cities, Pinnacle Peak Consulting, the U9, driven by Corey Peabody, Beacon Plumbing, which is driven by Dave Vilwalk, and J&D's driven by Jamie Nielsen, rounding out the top 6 positions. Or rounding out all 6 positions. Of course, the 440 yet to score, and Jeff Bernard has been trading time with Jimmy Shane in the U1. That's why the points seem a little bit off. It's going to be exciting, Tri-Cities, in a couple of weeks, because that's when we're going to have the most amount of boats, including the U3 Griggs Ace Hardware, the Turbinator, as they like to call it, the only piston-powered boat in the fleet for H1 Unlimited, makes its return. Going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to see that race next week. Or no, that's 2 weeks from now. I'm sorry. And also, I'm going to be going to a boat race myself. I'm going to be heading out to Thunder on the Chop Tank that weekend to see the boats in action as well. So, cannot wait. But it is now time to pick who we think is going to win this week. It is time for Nearest the Win. We've only got NASCAR and Hotlanta. They're getting ready for their repave. Chris, who's going to take it home on the final run on this surface?
Well, I was going to say Chase Elliott because he's the hometown kid. And it just seems like a good way to send the track out. But I think my gut and common sense says you got to go with the 5 car. There's just too much momentum on his side, and that's how I ultimately think it's going to go anyway.
I would like to also pick that 5 car, but I've got to desperately start trying to catch you in the standings, Mr. Sweep. So, got to try and figure that out. I'm going to go Kyle Busch this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone that's going to, not slump busted, it'd be the opposite of, but Kyle Busch has really been the only one that can stop these Hendrick guys. So, that's a good push or a good pick. Sorry, I as you know, I'm playing F1 right now, and I just booted Bottas out of Italy or out of Monaco, probably right into France. Yeah, I think Kyle Busch is a good pick if you're not going to take the Hendrick camp at this point.
Yep, it is what we have to do. We've got to catch you in the Nearest the Win standings. And if you want to play Nearest the Win, tell us who you think is going to win the Quaker State 400, and make sure you tweet it out with hashtag Nearest the Win to be added to the point standings. Also got Knoxville for the trucks coming up on Friday and Saturday as well. Make sure you check that out. I'm going to be at the beach, so I will not be able to check it out.
If you had to pick a way too early championship 4 as of right now, who do you got?
I think you got to take Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. I think those two are in. I think Denny Hamlin is going to be consistent enough to get there. And with JGR starting to pick it up, I think Kyle Busch gets in there as well. I think it's going to be a JGR Hendrick tag team match for this championship 4.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's right about what I would say. I think that, and this is just me being a homer, but I think Alex Bowman's kind of a dark horse for one of those spots, just because he was Mr. Consistent through the playoffs last year. But you can't go wrong. with Denny or Kyle either. But so you're closing the door on Truex already.
I am. I think I'm going to close that door. And we are about to get out of here because we do have a show coming up behind us and we don't want to be rude. So we're going to get ready to get out of here. I want to thank the SoCal Warriors semi-pro football team for sponsoring us. Make sure you check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And make sure you keep up with what's going on here on IE Sports Radio. And make sure you keep up with the Extra Miles Twitter page, Extra Mile IE Sports Radio. Didn't have a tweet. Didn't have a poll this week. We will have a poll, though, next week. So keep it locked here. Thank you, Christopher, for joining me. We're going to get out of here. Just keep it locked right here on the Extra Mile. More great content coming up after us. I am drawing a blank on who this is. And I feel terrible about it. Huh?
Gina.
So Gina's coming up. Can you say the name of her show? My brain is not working right now.
Something North. Reppin' the North.
Reppin' the North. There we go.
Yeah.
Reppin' the NorCal. Oh, yeah. Gina was just talking to us. I feel so terrible. Reppin' the NorCal Sports is next. No, wait. It's Frozen Takes that's next. We were far off. I feel bad. I need to know this schedule, but I've been bouncing around so much. I apologize, AJ. Frozen Takes is next. Keep it locked right here on IE Sports Radio. That show begins right now. But we're going to get out of here. For Christopher, I'm Darryl. This has been The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.